This is the Clues of Leadership podcast, and I'm your host, Dominic Waters. And we got another banger for y'all right here with this one, y'all. I'm really excited. A close friend of mine, a mentor, big brother, more like an uncle because he a little seasoned. But this is my first elected official on my podcast, and I'm really honored that he gave me a little bit of his time to be on here. He's a 22. Well, hold on, I got my math wrong. It's 26. So he's 24-year veteran. He is the sheriff of the Prince George's County Sheriff's Office. None other than Sheriff John D. Carr. Now hold on, let me get this right. Sheriff Carr, how are you today, sir?
I'm outstanding. How are you?
And I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for joining me. How's your day?
As you can see, it's still a long day, so it's still going, but it's doing well, going well.
Good. So I'm gonna get right into it. We were talking off camera about so many topics, and I'm just honored that you gave me some time and hopped on here. So, um, first of all, let's please tell people what the sheriff's office do, because a lot of people do not know what the difference between the sheriff's office and the police department.
And that's so true, but it's amazing though. The sheriff's office has been around since 1696. So the sheriff is the constitutional officer. We're the law enforcement arm of the courts. We execute all processes or all court orders from the courts. We specialize in dealing with warrants, child support, landlord, tenant, civil. We also have a fugitive section. We're also responsible for security of the courthouse, both circuit, and we assist in district as far as those individuals who are in custody. We also have a transportation unit. Since taking office, I've also expanded our role and responsibilities in domestic violence, uh, behavior health, as we do all of the emergency petitions from the courts. And then now we have a community outreach unit in which we're in the middle schools. That's typically what we do as far as our primary responsibilities. But a sheriff, because he is an elected official, actually answers to the citizens of the county. And that's who I work for. That's who my supervisors are, or the citizens of Prince George's County. And that's what we do is just serve them. And it's ways that you can serve them, especially coming from court processes when you're dealing with evictions or you're dealing with domestic violence and serving emergency petitions. There's a way you need to be doing that, showing respect, empathy, and care, and then providing those wraparound services for those individuals to make sure that we take care of them. So that's what we do here at the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff.
Man, that's a mouthful. And I kind of knew all of that, but I'm so happy that you have expanded since your election. But let's go into your career. You started with the sheriff's office back in 2002. What was different then than it is now, and how did you get to become the elected sheriff of this county?
Okay. Very good question. I can tell you back in 2002, uh, public safety was much different. When you looked at the demographics, when you looked at how we actually served. So I came in under Sheriff Al Black, who happened to be the first African American sheriff here in Prince George's County. Also had a career in the Prince George's County Police Department. So when I came in, I was able to actually learn from a lot of those who were here before me. Uh, Actually, before when I came in, we had a large group of individuals who actually were still waiting for promotions. So promotions weren't readily available. When you want to talk about vehicles, we had Grand Prix back then, and that should tell you, how old those vehicles were. We also really focused primarily on just serving those orders. We didn't expand until maybe later on under Sheriff Michael Jackson, who actually started the expansion of our domestic violence program outside of just serving peace and protective orders. We actually started running 911 calls. We actually went into the Prince George's County high schools and made sure that we had a school resource program. So when I started, it wasn't as many opportunities as we has as of right now. But you also start to look at that upper mobility. So working and going through every level here at the office of the sheriff, I would say, is very unique. Uh, when I first came in, kept my head low, observed, listened to everybody, no matter what. You always listen to everybody. You want to pick up as much information as possible. Once you pick that information up, then you know how to use it later on. Uh, Continue to study. I would always say that. I tell my folks now, perfect your craft. What you want to do is you still want to do education. So I'd already had my bachelor's degree in criminology and criminal justice when I started here at the Office of the Sheriff, but I went back and finished my master's in uh, public administration. So you always want to perfect your craft. You always want to try to get better. I actually taught up at Maryland Police Training Commission dealing with police leadership. So I always try to make sure that I kept up with certifications. I kept up with the standards of law enforcement and public safety. And then I always challenged myself. So I actually was a member of our SST team, our SWAT team. I actually was a team leader and then I actually became the commander. Worked also in our internal affairs unit, making sure you're as diverse as possible and going into different units, putting yourself in uncomfortable positions is how you will always get ahead. Don't get complacent. We have too many people in our job, in our career field, that love a unit that they're in. They love the squad that they may be with. They love that unit. I don't want to promote. I don't want to get transferred. I want to stay right here. That wasn't me. You tell me where you need me, and I'm going to go wherever you need me to go so I can pick up and learn and develop and help others.
Yeah, that's a good philosophy that a lot of leaders don't really take the time. They want to jump through the ranks and not necessarily diversify themselves and get that experience, especially if you are afforded the opportunity to do that. You know, like you said, you went through SRT, you did some of the domestic violence, and you were able to be a part of the expansion as you entered the sheriff's office, and you were a student. I think oftentimes people look at certain positions and titles, and they'll say, "Oh, he's there because of some other reason, not because he literally kept his head down and did the work and earned it." But you did just that, and it's a testament to why you are in the position you're in today. I, One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, take me back to a moment when you first realized leadership wasn't about the position, because you served in every single level of the sheriff's office. Um, what what was it about being in certain positions that you knew that you were a leader, and how did you realize that?
So I'm gonna give you just the steps in those levels. So when you come in, you know, you're a deputy, you're learning, you're picking up, you're really trying to define exactly, you know, what is your niche, what do you really like to do. When I went to first class, it was, hey, I already understood the basics functions of the sheriff's office and just law enforcement as a whole. So that's when you're working those secondary employment jobs, you're working and meeting a lot of the other agencies and working with them on special details, whether that be the 4th of July, whether that be inauguration, several different events, any different events you can actually do here at the Office of Sheriff. You start to figure out what, hey, what is this unit about, or what is this assignment about, and you want to give it a try. I would say it really hits you when you are a corporal. When you are a corporal, especially when you now have some seniority, people start to look up to you. And I don't think a lot of folks understand the informal culture that a lot of the agencies have. You have senior corporals and people who have been here for many, many years that a lot of our younger folks will always look up to and basically are running these squads and running these units. That senior corporal is that person who not only advises them of, hey, how to do something from the day to day, that person is also advising them on their personal life. In law enforcement, you know, you have to have a balance. And a lot of times it's very difficult for those who are on the job to have a true balance. So that senior corporal is advising them, hey, I don't think you want to do that. Or, hey, you want to stay away from that. You know, hey, I can give you one example. When I came on, it was always max out your deferred comp. You know, you need to have a deferred comp. You got to have a 401k. You're young. Don't worry about it. Max it out. Put that money there. Save it. So when you get older, you need to make sure that you're able to, you'll have something to fall back on. Another thing that I was made aware of is, hey, don't use your leave. Work some of these assignments and get comp time. So you'll have comp time. So when you do want to take off, instead of burning your annual or sick leave, hey, use your comp time, because when you do retire, they'll pay you out for that. So these are little nuggets that you actually get at the lower level. But I'm gonna say it was probably at the corporal level. So at the corporal level, actually was already on our SWAT team, our SST team. I had actually worked in domestic violence. I worked in landlord tenant. I worked in several other units. Of course, again, I was actually working a lot of our specialty assignments. The opportunity came that the sheriff's office started to go into Prince George's County high schools. And as a corporal, I actually went to the Prince George's County high schools as a school resource deputy, and actually was assigned to Largo High School. From there, doing that work and working and being with the community, uh, I actually was promoted to an acting sergeant. So as an acting sergeant, I had everything from Central Avenue all the way down to Oxon Hill or Akakeek, the southern region of the county. And I can tell you that's where I really cut my teeth in understanding what leadership really means, because again, you're responsible for everybody that's up under you. So I really took that to heart. If they were going through a personal issue, I wanted to make sure I was there. If they were dealing with issues at the school, or they were dealing with issues at work, I wanted to make sure I was there. I wanted to make sure that I was able to work with them so that, hey, and motivate them so that, hey, they know that somebody's always going to support them or be there. And I wanted to make sure that they understood that, hey, even though this is a job, we still have to take care of each other. And the way we take care of each other is we still act human, we still relate to each other, and we make sure that we're able to provide that better service to our citizens. So I'm gonna say, when I actually went into the schools, you also get to work with the youth, and many of the youth that I encountered and I actually had as a school resource deputy are actually law enforcement currently right now. Some have been chiefs in some of our municipal governments. Some have actually, actually moved through the ranks in our leadership. So it made me proud to see that you can actually be a role model for those folks. So I'm gonna say, as a corporal, that's where you pretty much understand. As you start to move as far as sergeant, lieutenant, uh, I'm gonna even say as you go to your captains, your majors, you start to understand that that's where it's a bigger piece of the pie. But you also have to be able to deal with a lot of the internal politics and external politics, and understand exactly what your role is, because it's much different than when you are a frontline supervisor.
Sheriff, you gave so many nuggets in that, and what I like the most is that you said your first supervisory position is where you really cut your teeth and learned leadership principles, where you were schooled and you really developed. And I think oftentimes I see people who don't really harness that opportunity. They're so set on the next promotion that they forget that you have to deal with people and you have to show them empathy. You can't be a robot like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Just I'm gonna make you do this because I can, because it's a directive or it's an order, and they forget about the people, and they mistreat people often when they're in those positions where they have some authority over people, and so I wish people take from that they get a little bit of heart, and be more centered on developing the people around them so that they can be better teammates and better leaders for them. So
And see, but when you say that, I want to bring up, uh, we have in this career field now individuals who want to be leaders, and they want to be leaders on paper. You want to be leaders and you want to get the money. We always want the money. We want the titles to say, hey, I am this supervisor, or I supervise this unit. But when it comes to dealing with the personnel and dealing with the issues, we don't want to take the time to deal with that. Our expectation is, if I told you to do something, you should just do it. And life doesn't work that way. When I came on, I didn't have kids. Now I have kids. They're almost grown. But like with our youth, and I don't want to compare, any, adult to a child, because that's not the case. But with anybody that you may come into contact with, people are always going to ask questions. You can't look at it as somebody's challenging you. You have to look at it as, what is this person's internal motivation? And when I say internal motivation, is sometimes motivating a person basically means, hey, this person likes acknowledgement. So let me acknowledge every time they do something good, so that they can feel good about one, about themselves, but then they can also want to do more. You get more bees with honey than vinegar. And I think a lot of times people don't understand that. We become supervisors, and I see too many people doing this. Hey, look at my rank. I'm this. You don't lead by rank. You lead by communicating and working with your folks, and you lead by example. And I think when it comes to leadership, especially in public safety right now, because we are trying to fill a void, we have too many people who really don't understand what it means to be a supervisor or a leader. It's much more than what it is on the books. And that's where, when you test for supervisors, you have to know your general orders, your SOPs, you got to know the book stuff. But it goes well beyond that book stuff. It really goes to, can you communicate? Can you work with somebody? And those supervisors who think, I'm going to be your best friend, that's the worst thing that you ever can do. You don't want to be your friend. Hey, we can be friends outside of work, but when we here, I have to hold you to a standard. And when I don't hold you to that standard, that's more of an issue for you as an employee or somebody who I have to supervise or work with, because you aren't getting the leadership or the tools that you need in order to develop yourself. You always have to do self-reflection. And that's something that, again, as you make mention to, we always need to make sure that I learned as much from a slick sleeve just coming into this agency as I do with somebody with 20 years. I learned from everybody. If you can't learn from somebody, then it's time for you to retire and time for you to step aside.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, in talking about that, right? You mentioned how um, you've had a lengthy career where you've seen people matriculate into different positions, different leadership roles, and you've actually had a hand in doing that. What I want to ask you is, because as the sheriff, you hand select your executive staff, you hand select your leaders. And I'm talking about the appointed ones, not necessarily the ones that are career position and take a test and an oral board and everything like that. But when you're identifying those people who can step into executive leadership roles or senior leadership roles, what is your mindset? What are you thinking? How do you identify these are the people that can best serve at this level and support the mission of the officer sheriff?
So the first thing is that you have to have a servant heart. You have to be willing to want to do the job other than, let me get this six-figure salary, or let me just get paid. You have to have a heart that you want to do this more than just advising or delegating your responsibilities or delegating assignments to an individual. I'm looking for somebody who has a heart to serve, and that means working with our citizens, going over and above. Also, mentoring and develop those who are younger, coming up and being creative and thinking outside the box. We can't keep doing the same things over and over and over again as times are changing. We have to change with the times. And in order to wind up doing that, you're looking for individuals who uh, may not be, for some people, in my eyes, may not be the most ideal candidate, but you understand that, hey, they have a skill set that will definitely benefit the agency and the community. And they're willing to learn, grow, and develop. So I'm looking for those individuals. So when it came time to appoint, in my beginning phases, as far as my career here, I actually try to promote from within those individuals. So many, I would say, uh, four out of my assistant sheriffs that I actually had uh, in my initial year or two were from within, as far as the office of the sheriff. I want to say three of those were actually lieutenants. So they didn't have the captain rank, they didn't have the major rank, they weren't assistant sheriffs before, they were actually lieutenants. And I saw something in them to say, hey, you know what? These are people who we can develop, and they're coming from a younger mindset. You always got to make sure, as a leader, that you're able to not only relate to your staff, but you also want to relate to the community that in which you serve. And when you look at some of the issues and what we're dealing with, a lot of these are newer mindsets as far as how we look at crime, how we look at our youth and trying to address those youth crimes, how we're looking at technology, dealing with AI and scams. These are different things that we have to start to think outside the box. So that's how I selected those individuals. Now, when they get into the seat, it's much different. I am very demanding in reference to, hey, we're here to serve. As you can see, I'm still here in the office and it's dark outside. I don't punch a clock. This is 24 hours, 7 days a week. I knew what I was signing up for. And I tell those who want this role, hey, you know what you're signing up for. I never want to take you away from your family, but you understand that your family here also needs you in your community. When somebody is getting beat up or somebody has an issue or a problem, they don't want to hear, hey, well, I'm off or I'm out, or hey, I didn't did my 9 to 5 or my 8 to 4. They just want help. Again, we hear this on a regular basis. I pay your salary, I pay taxes. Well, what you are paying for, you deserve much better. I'm gonna tell you that now. Even though you pay taxes, has nothing to do with the service that we give you. If you're doing a job like in public safety, you should really be here to try to serve and make sure that you're able to take care of your citizens. And the best way that you be able to do that is by having somebody that listens and thinks outside the box, so that they can come up with different creative ways to serve and take care of folks. So that's how I made my selection with that. And there were some bumps in the road where, some people couldn't adapt to uh, change. And you understand that even when you are in a leadership role, you're not always going to get your way. Things aren't always going to happen your way. I am the sheriff. And I still, have to understand that, hey, just because I would like something to happen doesn't mean it's going to happen right then and there. That's not the way leadership works. You have to be able to compromise. You have to understand if I need us to get to 10, I may want to do 5 and 5, but somebody else may have 9 and 1. Somebody else may have 8 and 2. Long as we can get to this objective and goal and making sure that we take care of people, I'm okay and I'm happy with it.
And you know what's funny is people don't understand that even as the sheriff, like you just said, hey, I didn't get it right, and I had to reset, regroup, and identify other people who were capable to step into this leadership position. But still, your foundations of being a servant leader holds true. And so I hear you keep talking about service, service, service. Is that your leadership style? Are you a servant leader, or do you roll into another type of leadership style?
I think that is one of my leadership styles. But as you start to get to this role here, you got to be able to adapt. One thing I learned in actually teaching up at Maryland Police Training Commission is that you got to have many tools in your tool belt. You can't always come out and bring a hammer and start to hit people over the head. You got to make sure that you're able to build people up. You got to understand exactly the different types of leadership style because everybody is different. Some people will react to a more stern approach and more of a direct approach, and leading with very little leeway to it. They would actually, hey, you need to do A, B, and C, and here's how you do A, B, and C. You have to understand that leadership style doesn't work for everybody. So I would say, as far as my leadership style, I pretty much adapt to what the needs are, because I understand that we're dealing with a generational gap here in public safety and law enforcement, especially here in the sheriff's office. We're very young. So I understand that some of my folks who have been here with me and have seen, me go through the ranks, or have been and worked up under me in a different capacity, I understand that they look at me completely different than somebody who's new coming in. And I've always been down to earth and wanting to communicate, because my true leadership style would be more development in dealing with those who come after me. A leader should always have a succession plan. So if I'm not pouring in and building up those who are behind me, then I'm failing as a leader. And that's what I am trying to do, is develop those who are up under me, so that they then could take the mantle and take the role of upper management or an executive leadership, and that even if they don't do it here, they can go somewhere else and do that. That's my role and my responsibility, along with serving the citizens of the county.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome that you have identified that. Not to me, because we have a shelf life. We know that this is a temporary position that we have, and we just want to do the best we can for the time that we're allowed to serve in it. But I think often our leaders don't look at who's up next, who can take the mantle and continue the good work that we have begun here, that we've started, and continue to serve at a high level. And what I often see is that, let's just say, you know, you say, all right, I'm hanging it up. I'm done. I want to retire. I've done my time. I want to be with my family. And when you do that, the agency crumbles. We start to see leadership shaking. We start to see people saying, I'm out because of mismanagement, services not getting rendered to the people. When you say that you develop the leaders of the next generation, and there is a generational gap, like you say, like you still have some baby boomers here, then you
Hmm.
got, your next generation, which is millennials, which I fall in, and then you got your alphas and your all these other new ones, betas, whatever they are. And like you said, now I know when you started, similar to when I started, we didn't have body cameras. Um, we didn't have we didn't have like GPS in the cars the way we do. We didn't have these fancy radios, these the uniforms. Because we talked a little bit off camera about some of the things that the newer officers want. As the sheriff and as the leader of your department, how do you keep the foundational values of the sheriff's office at the standard that has been set, but still compromise and learn from, like you said, because you also listen to your younger staff members. How do you compromise that and kind of work with them as they come in and enter your sheriff's office?
So I push them, and when I say I push them, like I said before, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So you have these younger folks come in, they're hungry, they want to learn, they want. I want new cars, new tasers. I've been working here for 3 weeks. I need to be a supervisor. I want to be in this specialty unit. They want. There's a way of molding that and actually taking that motivation and moving them towards a positive goal. That is something that you definitely want to do. But then you have those, as you say, your baby boomers or those who have been here for quite some time. What happens when some of those younger people are motivated and taking those opportunities now start to surpass those baby boomers or those individuals who have been here for many, many years? Now you get that, oh, this supervisor doesn't know anything, or he's still wet behind the ears, or he's not old enough to, but you can't knock that. So you got to have a good balance. You got to be able to push our younger folks, but you also got to be able to motivate and push our senior leadership, because those senior those I call them informal leadership. You want to make sure that they still feel valued. You want to make sure that they still have a role in your agency, because that's where you get a lot of your institutional knowledge. That's where, hey, mistakes that may have been made years and years ago, and they were there, and they can actually tell somebody, hey, here's the reason why we don't do this, because this occurred and this happened. That's how everybody learns. I mean, I wish we could have had body worn cameras uh, back then, because you take the body worn camera video footage and you use that as a training tool, so that we're not knocking somebody as far as what they did. You want to use that so everybody can see that, hey, we probably had a better way that we could have handled this situation, and here's how our expectations and what we're asking you to do in order to address those issues. I also want to bring up, as you may mention too, when we look at uh, agencies and you start to have that gap, you start to really see that as you try to fill voids, that's when you start to get the backbiting. That's when you start to get, hey, I should have been promoted. How did you get promoted over me? That's where you get somebody who is very good at taking a test, but not a true leader as far as communicating or really being out there on the road or working with somebody who says, hey, I'm gonna buckle down, I'm a test, but I may not, when I get the role, I'm not gonna communicate with you. I'm just gonna get this role because I know the ins and outs of the general orders or SOPs. So you have to be mindful of that. Even when we do our test, I still have to look at that individual and say, hey, is this person really ready to be a supervisor or leader in your organization? Because when you get quite a few of those who aren't ready, you now are having you're handicapping yourself, because now you're having to go back and trying to make sure that, hey, that leadership, whether it be the majors talking to the captains talking to lieutenants, they have to mentor and develop those folks. But what happens when that lieutenant is young and the person who oversees them, that captain, isn't you still young themselves, according to years of service, and what occurs, and what happens when you have a major that may not know or may not have been. There's a lot of different things, and you have to be upfront and honest with yourself as far as what is your ability, because nobody knows everything. I'm the sheriff, but I have people here who they can advise me and tell me on different things. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. So therefore, I need to trust them. And the same way it goes, it works itself down. I take it from my mentor, and I was lucky enough, and this is a Black History Month. I worked up under three African American sheriffs, and Al Black, Sheriff Al Black was the first African American sheriff. Then you had Sheriff Mike Jackson, and then I had Sheriff Melvin High. So as I came through the ranks, I was able to look at three different men in their careers and pick something from each and every one of them. And I was a lieutenant colonel or assistant sheriff under Melvin High, Sheriff Melvin High. So he put me in that situation because when he took office 12 years before that time frame, uh, I was actually a sergeant in the school. So it tells you that, hey, me working through, I worked up under those three different sheriffs. And I'm going to say one of the toughest moments as you talk about leadership and that one to pass it down. When Sheriff High said that he was not running, I went to him. We had a good conversation and we were talking. But for somebody to have 40 plus years of law enforcement and also military service, retiring from the District of Columbia Metropolitan Police Department, retiring or headed running the Prince George's County Police Department, and then also going down to Virginia and being the chief down there, to come here and give us 12 years, and not to be able to enjoy his retirement or enjoy his family, that was eye opening. That was something that I understood that there is a work life balance. When you get in this role, you feel responsible for everybody who's up under you. I have to answer to the citizens. The citizens don't want to hear that, hey, I'm tired, or hey, we couldn't do. They don't want to hear any of that. They just want the service. So to see Sheriff High give his life not only to the citizens of Prince George's County, but the District of Columbia, Virginia, and to see him work his way through. And he was a school teacher. Many people may not have known that he was a school teacher even before he became law enforcement and was in the military. To see him pass away before he's able to end his term, it was devastating to me. But it definitely opened my eyes up as far as leadership. Our job is to definitely make sure that we are able to develop those up under us and make sure that they're able to take that role of responsibility so that we can then move out the way for them.
And as you talk about that, I remember one of Sheriff High's last like parades. You guys were walking up Rochelle, and he had just got out of the SUV, and he had to get back in. And that's one of the things I remember about him is that he was dedicated to the mission. He was dedicated to serving his department, and I didn't get a chance to really know him, but I can only imagine if the way you are, just as approachable as you are, like you don't make yourself above anyone else. You don't make yourself like, oh, I'm the sheriff. You can't talk to me. You can't approach me. One of the things I love about you is that you're like, hey, here's my number. If you need something, anything, reach out. I'll help you out. If I can't help you, I'll find somebody to help you. Um,
Mhm.
and I remember when you ran your race and won the election. I was just so excited because I was like, man, I got to watch him. Like I said, come from lieutenant colonel, assistant sheriff, and then going to now the sheriff, and it's good to see someone that um, you respect. Get their chance to do the things that they want to do. But we talk about work life balance, and as a leader, how do you personally create that work life balance? Because, like you said, your sheriff office is literally everywhere. I don't think you guys miss an opportunity to be in anyone's community, anyone's city or town. How is it that you have a work life balance when your office and you personally are everywhere?
So I'm gonna be honest. When we talk about work life balance, and I say I'm a work in progress. As you can see, I'm here right now. I'm a work in progress. I can tell you that my family and friends and everybody else, uh, they would definitely say I'm a work in progress. Uh, I just think, and I got this from Sheriff Berry, Troy Berry out in Charles County, who's the current sheriff out there. We had a conversation, and we have some very good conversations. And he said, you know what? If you're doing this right, you can't do it long. And I truly believe that, because when you give your all to the citizens and when you give your all to your agency, like I truly believe in these people here at the office of the sheriff, from civilian to sworn, just everybody, understanding they've gone through the same things that I'm going through. They're here listening to everybody else's problems and trying to be a problem solver and trying to come up with a solution. So when we look at that, if they're working, I realize I got to work 2 to 3 times harder than them, and then I have to lead by example. So as you see me here working, I'm pretty sure there's somebody who's driving in the parking lot right now, and they see my vehicle, and they're saying, "Hey, hold on, it's late at night. The sheriff is still here." That means a lot to them. When you walk around and we talk to them on a day-to-day basis, that means a lot to them. you know I can't do it now as much as I want to, because a lot of times I'm all over the place, but I still hear, well, sure, we want to see you more, we want you to. And even when I do talk to them, that's what the sheriff said, so I have to play that role of understanding where I still can guide and mentor our folks, but understanding that, hey, I have to let our supervisors be supervisors, and people who just can't come within the agency and just run to me and tell me an issue or problem. I got my let my supervisors actually try to work and develop and help, others in the agency. So when you talk about a work life balance, to me, this is 7 days a week. My phone is always ringing. It's always going on. uh, I'm starting to understand that, I still need to find time for my family, especially with my kids, because I have a son that's getting ready to graduate high school, so he's getting ready to leave the house. He's going off to college, and I have identical twin girls that are freshmen in high school, and they play sports. So therefore, it's been too many different events that I'm missing because I'm working the weekends. Afternoons, you're talking about practices and that seeing, and those are moments that I'll never ever be able to get back. So I am truly working on trying to find that balance, still meet the needs of our citizens and the agency, but I also got to give it to those individuals who, when this is all over and done with, that is my heart and joy, and I need to make sure I take care of them and leave them with positive memories of a father who was there, and not somebody who was always gone. So I'm trying. That's what I say. I'm
Yeah,
trying.
I concur in everything you said. Like my wife and my daughter say the same thing. I try to make myself. I try to set aside time just for the family. Like I have to schedule them like I schedule work, and I don't often get it right, and they understand because they've been. That's all they've known me is in law enforcement. They didn't know me before that, but I think we do as leaders have to give that our families some of that time that we give to our residents and the departments we serve. I think it will be better for it once we retire, especially. But you you talked about the sheriffs that you sat under, and it sounds like you had great mentorship along the way because no one gets to any position or feat without having great mentorship. But talk about a time when your mentor had to sit you down and tell you, "Hey, you know you messed up," and how did you take that criticism at that time? Like one of the failures that you had early on in your leadership journey.
So I can actually give you an example. And at the time, it was Sheriff Mike Jackson, and then it was Senator Mike Jackson. Now it is Superintendent Mike Jackson, as he is the head of the Maryland State Police. Uh, I remember coming out of a domestic violence meeting, and we had some supervisors that, really just, they throw you to the wolves. Hey, you got this. And when something happens, they weren't always readily available. And I remember speaking with Mike Jackson, I'm sorry, Sheriff Jackson at the time, about it. And he had to center me. He had to basically say, hey, uh, here's what your role and what your responsibilities are. You never let somebody else's actions dictate how you are going to react or what you're going to do. Uh, and when I say that is, hey, if you have a supervisor or you have somebody who isn't up to par and you feel isn't providing you with the what you need, you are able to go out and you're able to get that. You're strong enough that you're able to. So he was able to center me and able to guide me and how to conduct and how to carry myself. As they would say, you never let somebody see you sweat. So from your body language, your facial reaction, your demeanor. If you sitting in a meeting and you going like this, or if you having like you have attitude or something, that's not the way you carry yourself. That's not what you do. Even if you disagree with what somebody is saying, you have a conversation with that person offline. You actually, you're respectful in how you actually communicate with them. And even if you still disagree, you move on, but you understand exactly one, where you stand, and two, what you need to do as an individual to make sure that you move ahead. When those who react, and I remember it was a time, I was the first in my class, and I was the student leader, and I was the first in my class in several different events. And it was always something said here at the officer sheriff when I came on. Hey, if you were number one in your class, you get to pick and choose what unit you get to go to. When I came out, I wanted to go to Warrants. So I was like, hey, I want to run the streets. I want to do, and that didn't happen. And I was a little disturbed at the moment in time. And I remember my first assignment coming into the sheriff's office was the courthouse. So I was actually assigned to the courthouse, and I'm like, hey, I'm young. You got me in this courthouse. I want to be out and about, and I want to do. But that was probably one of the better things and the better assignments that I've had, because coming into the agency, one, you got to know different folks outside of just the sheriff's office, because you're dealing with that judicial branch of the judges, the state's attorneys, the public defenders. You're also seeing other law enforcement officers come into court, and you're actually hearing and listening to their cases, and actually what they did in order to effect an arrest, and what they did not do to effect an arrest, to see if this case is going to be prosecuted or not. So you got a chance to learn so much as far as what to do, what not to do, how it is viewed. And by the time I got onto the street, uh, I'd already caught on a lot of different things. I already had connections to where, hey, if there was something questionable or something that I had, I can pick up the phone and contact the state's attorney. Hey, one quick question for you. This is what I got, and I can get some advice, or I can actually, speak to some of the other court officials. So when we're looking for court documents, I'm able to actually call and make sure we're able to get that document, and I can actually go out and do what I need to do. Uh, so I would say my Sheriff Mike Jackson at the time was able to center me in those roles right then and there. How you carry yourself, how you speak to folks, how your body language, it means a lot. And you may not see it right now, but it could rub somebody wrong, in that agency. And you never can, never want to miss your blessings, because that's how people actually judge. Hey, I don't know you as a person, but I'm hearing good things about you. But the way you carried yourself in this situation just prevented me from asking you to come to my unit or my division or my bureau. And that happens in our profession.
People don't understand the unspoken clues that we as cops pay attention to, the body language that we pay attention to naturally in our profession. And it's even more exuberated when you're in leadership positions, or even when you're not in leadership positions, just in this uniform. When you're wearing the uniform, people are looking at how you carry yourself. Like you said, I'm sitting in a meeting, my arms folded up, my face is smudged and frowning, like I don't want to be here. I was told to be here. And then when you go and you got your hand out and you say, "Hey, I was looking at this opportunity. You think I'm good for it?" Like, whoa, didn't you just have attitude in that meeting? And so I wish people, if you take nothing else from this, pay attention to your body language when you're dealing with other people.
Yeah, you have to, and I think for the younger deputies, you let your emotions actually reflect and address your actions. And a lot of times you can't let your emotions actually reflect in your actions. You have to be able to separate that. If you're disappointed about something, if you're upset about something, there's ways that you could actually show that. But stumping off and your body language, or yeah, and just grabbing papers and documents and just thinking that you're not going to communicate to somebody, the only person that you're hurting is yourself. You're not hurting the agency. You're not going to hurt that leader or supervisor. You're only hurting yourself. So you need to be able to, how can I actually deal with this? Sometimes you got to be able to take constructive criticism. Sometimes you got to ask somebody, hey, you know what do I need to improve, or what do I need to work on in order for me to get this? People appreciate when you humble yourself and when you listen instead of just always talking, talking, talking. So
Yeah. So tell me this: what do you think people misunderstand about being in leadership? Like everybody see, like you said, oh, he's the sheriff. He's in this meeting. He's in that meeting. He's doing this. He's doing that. But what do people most misunderstand about being in this position, in this level of leadership, that you want to tell people, hey, you might want to be leery. You talk about you want this seat, you want to sit in my shoes. This is what you're going to have to deal with.
heavy is the head that wears the crown. People don't understand the fact that if you sit in this seat, you have to have thick skin. You're always going to have somebody throwing darts and rocks at you. You're always going to have somebody that's always going to second guess you. You're always going to have somebody that's going to try to undermine you, and you can't take any of it personal. You always have to go out with a smile. You always have to perform and do your job. You always, even though you know this individual, because at this role in executive leadership, you're talking about it's a lot of politics. It's all politics. When we're going to these meetings, when we're dealing with budget, when you're dealing with that, a lot of decisions are made based off of, when I say politics, how they can actually accomplish something. So if I'm an elected official and somebody, wants to align themselves with someone else, who you hang around and who you work with or who you, uh, associate yourself with will play a huge part. And as an elected sheriff, I have to go by the law. It's not about politics with me. But I want people to understand that it is definitely not sunshine and roses and all Skittles and sunshine at all. It is, uh, you know, always being criticized about your actions and what you do, always having to second guess and address that. And even when you're right, even when you're doing something good for somebody, you have to understand it still may come across as something wrong. It will always be something. So just because you have naysayers, just because you have people who, will, say that you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you can't take it personal. You sit here, you serve, and you smile and you keep moving because that means you're doing something right. The fact that the people are taking attention to you, but I'm gonna tell you, it wears on you. It wears on you because, for me, it wears on me because I genuinely really do care about, people. I want to see people to be happy. I want to make sure, hey, I'm able to take care of that person. But what happens when you can't? What happens when you got to make that tough call and you have to let somebody go? What happens when, you know, in this first term, unfortunately, we had somebody, one of our members, actually, you know, attempted suicide, or it is rough because again, it's not the fact that it occurred or happened, but you take that to heart. I take it personal. So it affects me in different ways. That's personal. When you have a deputy that may be hurt, or when you know a deputy is going through something, or when you lose a deputy, or when somebody leaves and they may be unhappy, that hurts you because you understand exactly, well, hey, you know what? I saw something in this individual and I want to make sure that this person is okay. I want to make sure that our families of our members are okay. Even when it comes to citizens, you want to make sure that they're okay and they understand. But again, you can't. So I would say heavy is the head that wears the crown. If you want this seat, you have to understand what comes to it if you're going to do it right. Now, you can be in this seat, read the paper and watch TV, not really do anything and thinking you can collect a check. But that means you're doing a disservice to everybody else around you. And that's not what this job is about. It's about taking care of folks. So, I hope anybody who wants to see will understands that, you will be criticized, and it always is going to be an upward battle or uphill battle, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
See, now I can tell your generation when you start quoting Biggie and start saying heavy is the head to wear the crown.
I don't believe you saying that's Biggie though. See, now you better tell your generation. Look, come on now, that's way before Biggie. See, now you telling your generation. Now look, come on.
No, I held you over here long enough, Sheriff. I want to respect. I got one more question. Um, when your leadership journey is over and you hang it up and you're no longer wearing the white shirt and the brown pants, what do you hope people say about how you made them feel as their leader?
I guess the biggest thing that I would love to leave behind would be is uh, he really cared about the members, the agency, and the citizens, and that everything that he did was to actually help individuals or help people, and that even if people don't see it, then you'll see it later on. I always want to make sure that I'm able to give back. They all will always say, and I said this, even taking this role. Uh, the only reason why I'm doing this is to make sure that I leave the agency and the county better off than when I came into it with. And that's really my ultimate goal. So I'm hoping they can say, you know what, Sheriff Carr came into this. He actually made an impact and actually helped somebody, even if it's only one or two people, help somebody to actually grow, develop, and make their life much better.
Thank you, Sheriff. I think you're well on your way to leaving that legacy. I am honored to know you and to be in this profession with you and to watch you do it. I am praying for your reelection campaign that you are successful in that endeavor. I know you have, that under the way. Um, but for everybody that's listening to this, Sheriff Carr gave us so much information. Please make sure that if he just gave you one nugget, one clue, that you take that with you and become a better leader. And if you like what you heard, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this podcast with everybody that you know that's in law enforcement, because we need better leaders out there that are willing to serve the people and serve their departments. And with that, we're out.